Welcome back. This is Chris, my brother in Christ, Stephen.
Welcome back.
Date today is August 18th, year of our Savior, 2018.
Yes.
And the title of this video is The Golden Triangles, Part 8. The Golden Triangles, Part 8. And actually, we could probably call it, the golden triangle, which would be representing the sun, or the phallus representing pointing upward, and then the silver representing the female pointing downward. So this is something to think about. That's what's used in alchemy, and that's witchcraft, folks, sorcery.
Isn't that kind of what the Baphomet does? One's pointing up, one's pointing down.
One's pointing up and down,
Above,
yes.
so below, yeah.
Right, exactly. So as a recap, we have the golden triangles, right? We have the triangles. We just use golden because it was kind of catchy. But we have the male and female, and then we have the star of Moloch, and then we talked about Amos, that's the star of Moloch. Moloch is the great child devourer. And then we have, can they see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we have hex, means witch, or we have sex or six, representing what was going on. So we're talking about seminary based upon the holy bone, which is the sacrum, which is your pubic bone, etc. And that's linked to the word church, which is the clergy or officialdom, divine, all of these things. And then we're going to get into, remember we're talking about eve or evening. Then we get into the vesper. We talked about the vesper. Well, the vesper is referring to the evening, means evening star. Evening star, a vesper bell, archaic, it means an evening or eventide. Vespers is the sixth of the canonical hours, evening song. So we're dealing with the worship of the evening service is dealing with the vesper, right? The vesper is the evening star, which is referring to Venus, the mother goddess worship, right? Mm-hmm. And then we're getting into, that's referring to the canonical hours, which is dealing with Roman Catholicism and also Anglicanism. And then that's referring, from there you have the vest, which is where you would get the Latin clothing for vestus. That's where you get the vest. Or from Vesta, which would be a Latin Vesta, capitalized the goddess of the hearth and fire in Roman mythology. Once again, more Greco-Roman pagan mythology. And the Vesta is where you get the word vestal, right? Where you have vestal virgins, chaste. And then you get into the vesti, which would be the vest, vestiary, which is all about, now we're getting into the garb, the clothing worn by the professional priesthood, which is based upon the mother goddess worship of Roman mythology. Once again, this is all connected to the religion of the world. All right, vestiary. Now, vestiary is what? Vestiary is a room, as in a monastery, where clothing is kept, clothing, raiment, especially a set of clerical garments, right? And clerical is referring to a clergy, officialdom or sacerdotalism, and then you have the clerical collar, right? Or cleric. Officialdom is referring to government as well. And we know that governments of this earth have united in service to the God of this world. And govern means to control, means to mind, control the mind. And that's exactly what the professional clergy do. They control the mind.
Right.
And so we have the vestibule, right? And that is any of various bodily cavities, especially in serving as a resembling an entrance to some other cavity or space. So remember, we're talking about the entrance to the church, the Mother Goddess Church, the cave facing down. You go into the what? The vestibule, right? The first door is the labia majora, and then you have the vulval vestibule, and then you have the labia minora, and that is various bodily cavities, especially in serving as an entrance to some other cavity. So that's the entrance building to going into the vaginal cavity where the laity reside. This is all about mother goddess worship. That's where you get the vestibule based upon the vulval vestibule. Then you have the vestibule schools. This is all regarding Vesper or Eve or evening, Venus, goddess of love, right? Venus and Veneris, venereal, right? Venereal means sexual intercourse, and that's where when it's abused, you have venereal disease.
Right.
And then you have the first definition of seminary, where a man goes into becoming a man of the cloth, the clerical position. He goes into seminary, and it's an act of propagation, which is creation, all right, through sexual intercourse. And then it puts in these brackets a seminary of vice and crime, and that's exactly what this system has produced from the very beginning. A system of vice or prostitution or sexual immorality and crime. Stealing, right? And system of money. The love of money is the root of all evil. All connected to religion, folks. All right? So this is all connected to a vestige, right? Then we're going to get into vestment, right? From the Latin vestamentum, from vestir, to clothe, an outer garment, especially a robe of ceremony or office clothing garb, a covering resembling a garment, the verdant. So all of these things, vestments of a 16th century archbishop. You have the alb, you have the apparel on the alb, you have the stole, the tunicle, you have the dalmatic, the chasuble, the maniple, the pallium, the amice, the mitre, the lappet, and the crosier. All of this stuff dealing with Vesper, Venus, Veneris, God Vesta. Different names, folks, but this, once again, this is a Greco-Roman. This is the Iron Kingdom. Very important to understand. And then we get into, as we talked about, the Mons Veneris, right? That's where the eminence is, and that's referring to your Mons Venus or Mons Pubis. The vulva or the yoni or the Shakti, the female force, right? So then we're getting into things like the word sex or six, right? We learned that sex or sexy, Latin for sex, more at six. You have six or sexy valiant, from valence, to be strong, atomic weights. So you have a sexton, right? That's for sacristanus, more at sacristan, a church officer. So now we have a sexton is referring to a church officer or employee that takes care of the church property. Then we have a sextant, right? From the sixth part of a circle, an instrument for measuring altitudes of celestial bodies from a moving ship or an airplane. Well, sextant helps. That's how they navigated through the waters.
Right.
Using a sextant, right? Sext, noun, often capitalized from the Latin sixth hour of the day, from the feminine of sextus, right? From sex or six, the fourth of the canonical hours, as we mentioned earlier, is sext is the fourth of the canonical hours, and then we have the delta, which is the fourth letter in the Greek alphabet, which is a triangle. Maybe that's a coincidence, maybe it isn't. Then you have sex is number one. It means male and female, right? Genesis 1, verse 27 to 28, right? Then you have under sex, you have sexual intercourse. This is where it gets really disturbing, folks, because we're talking about the star of Moloch, or Moloch. Remember? He is the great child devourer. So dealing with witchcraft and Satanism, you have child sacrifice, and a lot of times that involves sexual molestation. So the second definition of sex is a verb transitive, right? So if you're ready, if you want to change the channel, folks, I recommend it, because we're going to delve into something a little, it's disturbing, very disturbing. It means to identify the sex of means to identify the sex of. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it means to identify the sex of, and then we're going to be looking at what it says here. Remember, when it gives these brackets, it gives us a meaning of what that is. All right? And it gives this. Can they see that?
Yeah.
Okay? Now the squiggly line is showing sex chicks. I'm like, what? Can they see that? Sex chicks?
Yeah.
Now I'm like, why would they be using chicks? Now I looked up what chicks means. The second definition of chicks means child. That's what chicks means. Sex chicks. Child, slang for a young woman, right? She's a hot chick, right? You have that term. All this is about sex. The goddess of Venus, the mother goddess worship in the priest system. So this stuff goes on in the dark circles. And that's why you have what? Things like chicken hawk. Now what's a chicken hawk? He preys on what? Chickens. Young children. That's why you're dealing with NAMBLA, right? North American Man-Boy Love Association, right? Talks about chicken hawk. Talk about little boys, chicken hawk. Sex with young boys. This is all under this Star of Moloch, folks. Stuff goes on, and this goes on in the darkness, not in the light.
Yeah.
So you're not going to hear about this stuff on Fox News. All right? So this is all about the matra, right? Or the matri, or the matro, right? This is all referring to the mother goddess system. That's what we're talking about, right? That is the metropolis, right? We saw at the very beginning. This is what forms these words. Can they see these definitions, the variants? The matro?
Matro, yes.
Yes, okay. Now that's combination. Those are the Latin forms that form, and mater as well. That's where you have the alma maters referring to mother. Mother Arch. Now that's interesting. Mother Arch is the first definition. She is the mother of the arch or the firmament. That's where you get the word matrimony, relating to matrimony. See marital, conjugal, connubial, nubial, matrimonial. So you're dealing with, why is it when I'm getting married, it's under the mother symbol?
Yeah. Am I getting married?
Married. Yeah, so we're dealing with the matrimony is referring to mother, right? And then, well, that's referring to the matrix, right? Matrix is, and that's why they go, oh, it's the mother church. It's the matrices. And I'm like, well, what's matrices? And it took me a little searching. Well, that's Matrix. Remember the movie Matrix? Neo, he's like, Neo, it's everywhere. It's all around us, right? Because we're in the Matrix, folks. We're in the womb. Okay, so we're talking about matrix means for the Latin womb from matra or mater. Just what I've shown up. This is where you get the word matrix from. It's a female system. That's your Shakti. That's your Yoni. That's the force that we're talking about. Now, womb is referring to belly, right? Uterus, nourishing a cavity or space that resembles a womb and containing and enveloping, right? Referring to procreating, begetting. That's where you get the word matron, right? And that's where you get the word matter from. Oh, everything's made up of matter. Well, it's referring to the mother. She's the mother of all living, so therefore, she's our God. She created everything. That's what everything's made out of. It's made out of matter. So why am I getting married? Why am I getting married under the title of mother? Good question. Then you get the word, then matrimony brings you to what? Marriage, right? Marry. Now Mary is referring to Meritus. The second definition of Mary is from the Virgin Mary. So I'm getting married. We're going to marry and we're going to participate in matrimony. So that's Mother Mary. More evidence of a mother goddess system. Yeah. That is the Holy Mother Church. That is the cave. That is the down or cath or cata or Catholic. The whole or comprehensive system, right?
Or catacombs.
Catacomb, there you go. Kata, mother. mother tombs in the earth. Holy Mother Church from Roman Catholicism, the church is considered to be a mother to her members, right? Because she is the bride of Christ, so they say. This is all part of Roman Catholicism. This is the mystery school. And all other churches have their origin or derive from her. That's what they say. They say, oh, the Protestant church, it's only been around 100 years, and it comes from the mother. It comes from the origin. It goes back to the Vesper. It goes back to the Veneris. It goes back to the sexual intercourse. Venus, morning star, evening star, Vespers to Eve. Genesis 3 verse 20. Back to the tree of knowledge of good and evil, where the satanic seed line was first infused in the mother of all living. That is where you have the satanic seed line coming forth from Genesis 3:15. There were two seed lines came forth in Genesis 3:15. And that was the reason why you had to have, that's why Adam knew his wife and he produced Abel, and Cain killed Abel. Why? Because Cain was of that wicked one and killed the lineage, the untampered DNA that was going to bring forth the Messiah, Jesus Christ. So therefore Adam had to know his wife again to produce Seth. He beget Seth. And Seth means replacement. And that is the lineage that Jesus Christ came forth to be the Savior of the world. Very powerful. Mother, right? So we see here, they say, oh, the mother church, all come from that. And that's why you have propaganda pieces saying, oh man, Christianity is nothing more than mother goddess worship. Because they only go back to post-flood. They don't go back to pre-flood. Go ahead, my brother.
When we're talking about gravity, Newton's theory of gravitation, the theory of gravitation and the theory of gravity, the law states that any two bodies attract each other with a force that's directly proportional to the product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Scientific theory is basically a theory that explains scientific observations. Scientific theories must be falsifiable.
Yes, they can.
Natural philosophy and physics, the science of matter and energy and their interactions. You know, it's just, all it is basic rhetoric.
Yes,
when
it
it comes to what they're talking about with the gravitational theory, gravitational this, scientific theory, the law of gravity. It's all rhetoric. It's all just gibberish.
Yes, it is. It is. All based upon the mother church is based on a hierarchy or a cathedral.
Not based on fact.
Now, cathedral, remember that down means cata or cath, right? And that's the Latin word for chair. It's counterfeiting the throne of God. And a bishop's official throne, that's chair or state of a king, bishop or prince. Remember that Satan is the prince of the power of the air or the atmosphere. The seat of a deity, that's the cathedra or God or devil. It's a high order of angel or episcopal power, right? The cathedra. And then within the cathedra you have a cathedral, which is relating or containing a cathedra emanating from a chair of authority, right? And that is suggestive of a cathedral. A cathedral is a church that contains a cathedra and is the principal church of a diocese. And a diocese is the territorial jurisdiction of a bishop. The world is divided up into a hierarchy. Under the division of angels, it's a ruling body of clergy. This is how they compartmentalize. And we learned about Catholic, kata, which means kata means down, or cath, and that's the church universal. And that's linked to cave. That's the Latin cava. From cavus, cave, holo, means to be pregnant. Hollow, cavity, right? Cavus, hollow, and that's related to church. Church means Lord, master, power, akin to the Latin cavus, or hollow, or cave, or to be pregnant. And that's what we're seeing. Public divine worship. And all of this stuff about Mary. What do we see in Mary, right? We have Mariolatry, an excessive veneration of the Virgin Mary. We have Mariology. Study or doctrine relating to the Virgin Mary, or Eve, right? Maryist, right? Referring to the Roman Catholic Society of Mary, founded in France in 1816. And then that's where you get from the Latin maritime, right? From mare. Isn't that a female horse, mare?
Yes, it is.
Yes. And that's also where you get a nightmare, right?
Wow.
A nightmare, which is referring to akin to the incubus, or an evil supposed to lie upon persons in their sleep, especially to have sexual intercourse. All right? With women by night, nightmares, an evil preternatural being caused by nightmare, female horse, dark areas on the surface of the moon or Mars, once again, grafting in the planetary system. You see, this is a mother goddess system ruled by Satan and his minions. Hollow, right? Related to church, a cavity, devoid of value, significance, false, deceitful, vain. And that's what God says about the word science in 1 Timothy 6, verse 20. So you have, what does this mean? You have cave, linked to down, which is that's the inverted delta, the inverted triangle, kata, calf, cathedral, Catholic. Then you have the lingam, right?
Catheter.
Catheter, there you go. Sticking it in, right? Then you have the lingam, right? Or the linga. It's a stylized phallic symbol of the masculine cosmic principle, right? And of the Hindu god Shiva or Shiva, right outside of CERN, right? The destroyer of worlds is a symbol conjoining to join together for a common purpose to yoke the lingam and the yoni. So that's coming together, yoking yourself, the male and the female, together in the sex acts. That's the Tantra in Hinduism. That's your yogi. That's your yoga, right? And so we have the phallus. Well, what's the phallus, Chris? You're talking about the lingam. It's a phallic symbol. Phallus is referring to the Greek phallus or penis, representation of the penis, more at blow. I don't make this stuff up, folks. A symbol or representation of the male organ of generation. And intromittent means to send or put in, insert organ as a penis, a male organ of copulation, penile, relating to the penis. So we have the phallic adjective of relating to the phallicism, relating to or resembling a phallus. Phallicism, the worship of the generative principle as symbolized by the phallus. And that's related to sun worship, and you believe you're rotating around the sun, which is linked to the delta facing up, which is the phallus symbol. Worship of the male phallic symbol and the sun are interconnected, folks. That's the Mystery Babylonian school. And that's why you have the largest phallic symbol in the world in Washington, D.C., between two, forming in the center of the Vesica Pisces, in the center of the vulva, you have the generative principle. Mm-hmm. That is nothing more than the male and female together. And that's exactly what? 6,660 inches tall. The 666 symbol, folks. All right. So then we have the seminary, as we talked about. Something originates, propagated to cause, to continue or increase by sexual reproduction. You have Shiva, right? That's representing to the lingam. And that is the Hindu god who represents the principle of destruction in the Trimurti, or the great triad of Hindu gods comprising Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. All right. And is worship of the gracious creator and sustainer of the world in a major cult called Shivaism. All right. This is all about worshiping the creative energy, worshiping the law of attraction between a male and female, and tying in the breath of life to it. So taking the most wonderful gift of God and then putting that in the mix of sex and say, yeah, that's, you got to tap into the mother goddess, the Eve power. All right, Shiva or Shiva. And then you have obelisk, which is a representation of the lingam or the phallic symbol. A symbol representation of the phallus or lingam. Phallic architecture consciously or unconsciously creates a symbolic representation of the phallus prominent in ancient Egypt. Today, the world's tallest phallic obelisk is 555 feet or 6,660 inches, which is the Washington Monument in Washington, District of the Goddess of Columbia, Mother Goddess Worship. Vaticano, it's erected in St. Peter's Basilica from Helios, sun worship, and the phallic symbol in the middle of the Ishtar symbol, the Buddhist symbol, right? Sol is representing sun, used in alchemy, Roman god, sun worship, solar, the course. It's all relating to the phallic. This is the sex energy, folks. So understand, it's important to look at it from the lens of God's view through the Word of God and not through Satan. Satan is about taking something beautiful between a man and woman and using it as a system of power to bring in demonic entities into people by the sacrificing and torture and molestation of children. And you have Christians, through ignorance, wanting to yoke themselves to this symbol and say that they're Christian Zionists.
Yeah.
Very dangerous. Very dangerous indeed. So this is all about coming out of the Mother Goddess worship, folks. This is all about coming out of this matrix, womb, vulva system. Coming out of this system, and we can only do that through the light of Jesus Christ. Don't worship the planetary light. Don't worship day 4 light, which is Lucifer. Worship the one true light, which is Jesus Christ. That is the tree of life that was in the middle of the Garden of Eden. That's what Adam should have partook of. But he partook of the tree of knowledge to know of good and evil, and that's exactly what's going on today. The knowledge, the sexual intercourse of good and evil. So coming out of Babylon, coming out of the mystery Babylon, coming out of the whore Babylon, and coming to the true faith, the only hope, the only light, which is the light of Jesus Christ. Accept the free gift. God bless you. Bye.